interpreting the law and ensuring that the rule of law is maintained. TVC News senior reporter Celestina Area takes a look at major events that shaped the justice system since January 2024.
The judiciary in 2024 saw the end of a tenure of a Chief Justice of Nigeria and the start of another dispensation under a new CJN. The arraignment of former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission dominated major headlines. Emefiele is facing charges in 3 different courts. Before Justice Hamza Mwazu of the FCC High Court in Maitama, he is facing a 20-count amended charge of alleged conferment of corrupt advantages, conspiracy, criminal breach of trust, forgery, and obtaining by false pretense to the tune of $6,230,000 United States dollars. Still at the FCT High Court in Maitama, before Justice Miriam Aneni, Mr. Emefiele is facing a 5-count charge of alleged disobedience to the direction of law and illegal acts causing injury to the public about the Naira redesign, where he allegedly printed 684 million Naira notes at a rate of 18 billion Naira. At the Lagos State Special Offences Court in Ikeja, he is facing an alleged 26 counts of $4.5 billion and 2.8 billion Naira fraud. While the justices of the Supreme Court were overwhelmed with different appeals, signs of relief came. This was the swearing-in of 11 justices to the Supreme Court's bench. This brought the number of the justices at the Apex Court to 21, the first time in the history of the court to have its full complement of justices. On 11th July, the Supreme Court granted financial autonomy to local government. The court held that the retention of monies made for local government by state government is unconstitutional. After serving as the Chief Justice of Nigeria for 2 years, Justice Olukayode Ariwola retired after attaining the age of 70 years. His retirement ushered in a new era for the country's judiciary, as his successor, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, is the second female Chief Justice the country will have. On 30th September, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun was sworn in as the 23rd Chief Justice of Nigeria. A few hours after being sworn in as the substantive Chief Justice of Nigeria, she inaugurated 87 lawyers to the rank of senior advocates.
It's a new dawn and a new era in the Nigerian judiciary. I want to assure my fellow Nigerian citizens that we are committed to working more diligently to improve public perception of the Nigerian judiciary.
The constitutionality surrounding the establishment of the EFCC became a subject of litigation at the Supreme Court. Kogi State initiated the suit, after which some other states joined. The plaintiffs had argued that the Supreme Court had in a previous decision held it was a UN Convention Against Corruption that was reduced into the EFCC Establishment Act, and in enacting this law in 2004, Section 12 of the Constitution was not followed. However, the Apex Court on 15th November ruled that the EFCC Act, which is not a treaty but a convention, does not need the ratification of the Houses of Assembly. 11 days after this judgment, the embattled former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello visited the headquarters of the EFCC and was arrested. His arrest came after 7 months of evading arrest. The EFCC said they had tried to serve him with the charges against him. Due to his absence from court, a bench warrant for his arrest had been issued by Justice Meka Waite of the Federal High Court Abuja. The former governor is facing a 19-count charge of alleged money laundering to the tune of 80 billion Naira before Justice Waite. He was granted bail by the court in the sum of 500 million Naira and 2 sureties in like sum. The EFCC had also filed a 16-count charge of alleged money laundering to the tune of 110 billion Naira against the former governor before Justice Miriam Aneni of the FCT High Court in Maitama. He was arraigned on 27th November before Justice Aneni, a day after he was arrested. He was also granted bail by Justice Aneni. The former governor was remanded at the Kuje Correctional Center pending the perfection of his bail. Section 373 of the Nigerian Criminal Code defines a defamation or a defamatory matter as a matter likely to injure the reputation of another person by exposing him to hatred, contempt, or ridicule, or likely to damage any person in its profession or trade by any injury to his reputation. While some states are moving to decriminalize defamation, other states have not. A 12-count charge of alleged defamation was filed against human rights lawyer Dele Farotimi. He was accused of publishing a book, Nigeria and its Criminal Justice System, where he alleged that Are Babalola, founder of Babalola University, corrupted the judiciary and procured judgment in the Supreme Court, thereby exposing the complaints to hatred, contempt, ridicule, and damage to his hard-earned career. He was arraigned before a federal high court in Ekiti, where he pled not guilty and was granted bail by the court. Shortly after, he was also sued by another senior lawyer, Adebayo Adenikpekun, at the Oyo State High Court in Ibadan, Oyo State. Court summoned Dele Farotimi to appear before it within 30 days of service. Celestina Iria, TVC News, Abuja.
Joining me for more discussions is lawyer Adeshola Fagbemi. Good to have you join us.
Good evening.
So the current CJN Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, I just want to quote her right. She did say that her mission is to restore confidence in the judiciary by correcting wrong public perception. So far, what's your assessment?
Generally speaking, with respect to 2024, I want to say that in 2024, the judiciary had performed creditably well upon the appointments of Justice Kudirat Kekereekun by the President, Commander-in-Chief, Armed Forces, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. What she said, particularly in her inaugural speech, was to restore back the confidence the public had in the judiciary, and that is what we are currently witnessing. My assessment of the judiciary from January to December throughout 2024 has been a positive one with respect to some landmark decision taken by the courts, most significantly in the case of local government autonomy. I want to say there is a wider celebration with respect to the intervention of the Supreme Court, looking at the autonomy, financial autonomy, so to speak, of local government council by affirming the 774 local government council and giving them financial autonomy.
Now, one of the decisive moves, and you've mentioned, the issue of financial autonomy for local government, but one of the one was the fact that the NJC over some, it was a decision of the NJC over some unethical practices, like conflicting judgment, and that led to the suspension of some judges in Rivers and some other states. And now that we're in 2025, do you think that would serve as a deterrent to erring judges?
Specifically, with respect to the disciplinary measure taken by the NJC chaired by Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, I want to say that will serve as a major deterrent, looking at their misconduct with respect to conflicting judicial decision by also suspending them and the appointment of new justices. That will restore the public confidence back in the judiciary. Because basically, legitimacy is not a condition of legality, but a state of mind of the people. If the state of mind of the people are swayed, there's nothing anybody could do with respect to the judicial organ of government.
And one of the biggest parts of the judiciary is justice delivery. And you know how people will always say justice delayed is always seen as justice denied. And so let's talk about delayed suits. What's the suggestion to not just the NBA, both the bar and the bench in this area?
That has been a major debacle in Nigeria justice delivery system, when we have several adjournments, and even if you look at the rules of court, some of them are anachronistic, they are obsolete, so they need amendment, so that there could be speedy dispensation of justice, and also with the use of technology in filing system. I would want to recommend that to improve justice delivery system in the 21st century. No one is being analog. We need to be forward-looking, and also the issue of staffing. You know, judiciary within the country is understaffed. If they could onboard new staff, I think justice dispensation or delivery system would be improved drastically amidst every other measure that should be taken with respect to legislative and policy support. So NBA and the bar and the bench should put their hand on deck for several meetings for judicial reform, proper judicial reform. And that would drastically improve justice delivery system in Nigeria.
I know we touched on the issue of perception earlier. This is one of the things that also impact on perception, when after 5 years or 6 years, people have moved on. You then realize that judgment has then been given and people are wondering, or perhaps the case has been influenced. In what other areas do you think, because it's a big issue for Nigerians, you know, the issue of perception of the judiciary to be independent and not corrupt, what ways do you think that the judiciary can fix that this year, especially in terms of perception?
The issue of perception, which I said earlier, in school of thought, made us to understand that legitimacy is not a condition of legality, but the state of mind of the people. If the state of mind of the people is currently being swayed in the direction that the judiciary is not living up to the billing, I can say that the confidence reposed by common man in court will be dampened. But, you know, I said earlier, judicial reform, active judicial reform should be embarked on with respect to profiling of cases, looking at case integrity, because, you know, law and society are conterminous. They are interrelated, and appointing new justices that would look at cases critically, not being biased, considering the fact that politics is having its way into a judicial system. It should be independent, it should be impartial and unbiased. And, you know, judicial reform and training of our justices or judges are paramount at this time.
Thank you so much for your time, Adeshola Fagbemi, lawyer.